This one right here, the Brandon Herrera. All right, why you shouldn't ban the ATF yet? Okay, great.
Before you get your pitchforks out, just hear me out.
It's already out. I'm ready.
I know with a title like that, no matter what I say in this video,
Let's hear
the comments
it.
are going to be full of angry window lickers who are mad at me for this take.
I'm not a window licker. I don't lick
because
windows.
they don't have the attention span to listen to what the I am actually trying to say in this video. So to help with that, boom. Hopefully that helps. Now maybe Gen Z's
Ooh.
paying attention. So to completely avoid any confusion, let me start with this. I believe in the Second Amendment. Full stop. No but anything. I believe gun laws are infringements, and I support abolishing the ATF. In fact, I have literally testified in congressional field hearings in favor of bills to end the ATF. You will not find a much more staunch pro-gun person than me. But when it comes to abolishing the ATF, now that there's actually a bill in the House to do it, and it's gaining some momentum with an administration that's actually willing to consider it, I think we need to be smart about the way we do it.
Okay.
Because I fully believe we have a unique opportunity here to do something amazing to protect gun rights in America for generations to come.
God
And frankly,
bless.
I'm not sure when's the next time we'll have an opportunity to do this. I've been giving this a lot of thought lately.
What is the ATF? Alcohol, tobacco, firearms, or like a government agency that regulates that stuff?
Since Trump took
Oh yeah,
office.
explosives too.
And that's why I'm asking you guys to just hear me out, keep an open mind, and then tell me whether or not you agree or disagree with me down in the comments. Also, if you can't tell by now, this is going to be one of those hardcore rant videos, so I don't know, buckle the fuck up. So when people say they want to abolish the ATF, what they're probably thinking is a world where we do away with things like tax stamps.
Yup.
Nobody's enforcing
Fuck
things
'em.
like the NFA, so that, you know,
Fuck
civilians
that
can
too.
own suppressors and post-86 machine guns without SOTs or any of the stamps and stuff. Where we
Yes.
have more of this and less of this. And most importantly, a world where we don't have renegade bureaucrats in an unconstitutional agency snapping their fingers and deciding and declaring millions of law-abiding Americans felons overnight, like we've seen several times before with
Braces.
the arm brace rule or the
The arm brace one was pretty crazy. Like magazines too in like California. Assault weapons, basically.
80% receiver rule. Well, here's the problem that I'm worried about. Those individual laws that the ATF is tasked with enforcing. Things like the Gun Control Act of 1968, the National Firearms Act of 1934, or even the Brady Bill of 93. They were constitutionally passed bills that were voted on and passed in both the House and the Senate, and then moved on to the desk of the president where it was then signed. Do I think they're constitutional? No, absolutely not, and I hope they get challenged in court. But the fact is, currently, they are laws. All the ones I just listed, by the way, are what I think are the most egregious gun restrictions in the last 100 years. I didn't include the Clinton assault weapons ban of 94, but that's because that expired. And every single one of them, I might add, were passed when Democrats were in power, which is one of the many reasons that when I hear people say, oh, Democrats or Republicans are just as bad on guns, it makes me want to put my head through a fucking wall. And before I hear anybody say, oh, but Ronald Reagan, the actor? What you're referring to is the Hughes Amendment, which was an amendment attached to a bill called the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986,
Okay.
which I think was a good bill, with the
when
exception of
Umineko
one
happened?
shitty provision attached called the Hughes Amendment, which was submitted by, you guessed it, Congressman William Hughes, a New Jersey Democrat. Anyhow, the reason I bring this up, let's say we can wave a magic wand and get rid of the ATF.
And I hope it happens.
Which, if it was ever going to happen, I feel like this next 2, possibly 4 years is the time to do it. I mean, hell, Trump even promised to fire ATF Director Stephen Dettelbach on day one. Didn't get the chance, because Stephen Dettelbach actually resigned just days before Trump took office. Good riddance. Another in a long line of ATF directors with no actual knowledge of firearms. Not even the bare minimum knowledge of firearm technology or gunsmithing. Like one can learn from sdi.edu. But just to add insult...
I heard that there was some drama with SDI recently. I don't know much about it, but I heard that there was drama around it.
to injury, as a retirement gift, his coworkers gave him an 80% AR lower, bragging about how untraceable it is.
So this does not need to be traced.
Okay.
This is after the guy spent the last few years trying to shut down businesses and throw law-abiding citizens in jail for owning one. This is like the director of the DEA getting a fucking 8-ball of cocaine as a retirement gift. Whatever. So it's the beginning of 2025 and everybody's kind of looking for a fresh start. Maybe you're looking to eat better, hit the gym more, lose a little weight. I'm looking to do all 3 of those things. But we all have bad habits you want to stop and good ones you want to start. This could be the year that you decide to get out of debt and stop being crushed by it. And that's why we're sponsored by our friends over at PDS Debt. If you're making monthly payments on your debt, but your balances aren't going down, PDS might have a solution for you. Anyone with $10,000 or more in eligible debt is qualified, and there's no minimum credit score. Bad and fair credit are both accepted.
I don't
So you
like
can
going
save
into
more
debt.
and pay off your debt in just a fraction of the time. So make this the year that you take control of your debt. So get your free debt analysis now at pdsdebt.com/bh. That's pdsdebt.com/bh. It only takes 30 seconds.
I heard
So
there's
thank you
some
to
good.
PDS
I heard
Debt
there's some good ways to use debt, but like I'm not. I don't know. Like I've never really been in any serious debt.
for sponsoring the video. Back to it. Let's say we succeed and abolish the ATF. Those laws I mentioned earlier, the NFA, the GCA, all that, those are still laws that are in effect. They don't go anywhere just because the agency currently tasked with enforcing them goes away. Which leads to this major point. If the ATF disappears tomorrow before the proper groundwork is laid, the responsibility of enforcing those laws goes into the hands of bigger, better funded agencies with more staff, such as the FBI or the Department of Justice.
Oh, not good.
The ATF already operates under the Department of Justice, the DOJ, so this is like the logical step. If you're not tracking yet, let me give you some scale for what that means.
Okay.
Think about how much you hear about the ATF harassing people, flashbanging families of gun owners in no-knock raids, going after mom-and-pop FFLs for paperwork errors, so on.
That's super bullshit,
the
by
annual
the way.
budget of the ATF is about $1.6 billion. Now let's compare that to the FBI, who has an annual operating budget of around $11 billion.
Okay.
And finally, the DOJ, which in total has about $38 billion. Do you see yet why I'm trying to bring attention to this? Now, the ATF currently employs about 5,200.
I see. Because okay, that makes sense. So basically, what he's saying is that if you right now think of the ATF as a containment channel on Discord, okay? So you've got your channel, your containment channel, right? And there's like less like observation in there. So basically, right now the ATF has to handle all of its duties with a limited budget. But if we just nuke the ATF, the responsibilities of the ATF, because the gun stuff is still the stuff we don't like that the ATF enforces is still law. Therefore, if the ATF is nuked, the responsibility for upholding those laws has to go somewhere, and it might go to a agency that has more resources. Does that make that actually makes a lot of sense. That makes sense.
people full-time. The FBI has 37,000.
They have
The
way
DOJ,
more resources
a whopping
to go after
total
people.
of about 115,000. Are you starting to pick up what I am putting down here?
Yes.
If we're not smart about the way we do this, we put the enforcement of all current gun laws on the books in the hands of people who are better equipped and better funded to fuck with you. Which leads me to my second major point. If we had an actual pro-gun ATF director who's willing to tear that agency apart, we could have that organization ready to be dissolved in less than a year. And let me tell you some of the ways that can be done. By the way, this is not just one big pitch to
So
put
what
me
he's
in
saying
as
is
ATF
basically
director.
it's better to
After
contain
I was
it.
nominated on RFK's website, I did say I was, and still am, serious about taking the position if it was ever offered. We did have some fun with it by using the Brandon Herrera for ATF t-shirts over at Bunker, really to do the opposite of what the ATF does, and we're raising money for no-kill dog shelters here in San Antonio. So if you want to check them out, links are still in the description. Let's help some doggos. But the point being, this isn't about me. Not to be too crass about it, but frankly, I don't care who gets the position as long as they are rabidly pro-Second Amendment and are willing to go in and do what needs to be done. And if somehow the Trump transition team is listening, please keep some of these ideas in mind. If you want to know what the gun industry...
Dude, Brandon being the head of the ATF would be the funniest shit ever. That would be like peak
and gun
comedy.
community wants, it's this. This is the ultimate goal. The finals... The big plan. All jokes aside, though, community wants, it's this. This is the ultimate goal. The finals... The big plan. All jokes aside, though, let's jump into it. First off, finally walk back any and all Obama and Biden era ATF restrictions on arm braces, 80% receivers, forced reset triggers, all of it. This one is just a no-brainer and can literally be done day one with the right preparation. Now it's time to go on the offensive, something we rarely get to do in the gun rights world. Let's look in the import-export space. Remember when the Obama administration labeled 5.45 ammo as armor-piercing pistol ammo? And then the price jumped up from 14 cents a round to 50 cents a round? Yeah, we go after stuff like that. Open back up the floodgates on imports. Make new determinations on what is demilled when it comes to parts kits. No more of the mandatory torch cut in 3 pieces bullshit. Back to single saw cuts like was allowed for decades. Target the sporting clause determinations and roll back stupid regulations that caused the issues, like, for example, banning the imports of the Beretta shotguns recently. Now, if you're not in the industry, all this stuff might sound kind of pedantic, but you have no idea how much stuff like this will help the firearm market. And more importantly, all of this can be done fairly quickly by putting the right people in charge of the ATF. All in the meantime,
I'm on board. I think his argument is completely reasonable.
Agent that isn't currently working on anti-cartel, legit border operations, that sort of stuff, now has one mission: approving tax stamps and transfers. But now
Yes.
here comes probably my favorite part, and the one that I think will have the most permanent impact if it's done correctly. A new pro-gun ATF could actually work directly with gun policy groups such as FPC, NAGR, GOA, several of whom I actually consulted before making this video, by the way, and take cases where the ATF is being sued for overstepping and agree with them on record in court. I'll start telling them to sue the ATF over things like arresting someone over unlawful possession of suppressors or SBRs. Sue them on the grounds that because there's millions of those in circulation in the United States, they fall under the Supreme Court's definition of in common use and are therefore legally protected by the Second Amendment. Bingo. You have now just used the ATF and the courts to de facto legalize suppressors and SBRs.
That's a bingo.
All sorts of stuff, really, just by using the very definitions laid out already by the Supreme Court, which, by the way, is currently stacked 6-3 pro-gun. The amount of legal precedent you could set here would take the anti-gun crowd decades to try to undo. And these are just a few ideas.
Do it.
Believe me, I have pages of notes on
More
this
power
stuff.
to the people.
Specific regulations and restrictions that I think are a prime target. Once all that's done, the ATF director can easily just...
I'd rather have Brandon as an advisor and Matthew Laossiere from Fudbusters as ATF director. He's an actual gun rights lawyer, expert on 3D printing and firearm manufacturing, and is hilarious.
Honestly,
his law background would help a lot on making pro-gun rulings that don't be.
Honestly, like, it would just be nice to have someone that understands guns. Like, actually understands, like, and actually cares about, you know, 2A. That would be great.
Resign and asked President Trump's help to disband the agency entirely. To quote a popular piece of modern media,
watch the sunrise on a grateful universe.
But to move on before I make this a fucking 30-minute rant video, do I think this will happen? Well, I'm gonna be real with you, Chief. It's optimistic thinking. But I will say this is the goal that I think the gun community should be pushing for. What we need to be doing right now is urging Trump and the transition team to select a pro-Second Amendment ATF director. Again, I don't give a shit if it's me. I just want them to be rabidly pro-gun and willing to do the things necessary. I heard Blake Masters.
Thanks, Sloppy again.
I supported him in his race. He would be an awesome pick as long as he's willing to do aggressive shit like this. On top of that, we need to continue to push our elected representatives to push for and vote yes on bills that will start rolling back some of these gun restrictions. If we can do both of those things, then abolishing the ATF might just be the beautiful future we all hoped it would be. Sorry if this video was a little bit of a break from the norm. I know some of you guys like it when I get more serious with this and do like actual legal
I really liked it. I liked the video. I agree with his logic too.
But I do think it's important to do every now and again, because there is that side of the gun community where, you know, if we want to continue to enjoy guns and we want to be able to pass that along for generations to come so our children's children enjoy the same freedoms that we do, this stuff's important. And again, you don't have to agree with me. If you disagree, I'm sure by now you've already let me know down in the comments. I'm sure the discourse there will be... well, it will be. But try to be polite, guys. We're all on the same side. We just might have different ideas on how to get there. Anyhow, I appreciate you watching to the end of the video. And as always, I will see you, well, in the next video. Thanks.
Nice.